So, hello everybody. Hello, our big audience.
Hi.
I wanted to say thank you for holding and watching this live stream. Last week we couldn't have a live stream as usual because it was the World Mobile Congress in Barcelona and I was there. So I'm sorry for that. But today we have a special event. And the special event is because today is joining us Sarah Zebede, a brand strategist and founder of Adel Agency. Sarah, please correct me if I say something wrong.
No, you're good.
Sarah has 15 years of experience in communication, with the last 7 years dedicated specifically to brand strategy. She began her career in the performing arts and later transitioned into the corporate world, working with businesses of all sizes,
Yes.
from individual personal brands to multi-million dollar international organizations. Sarah has helped develop brand strategies and narratives for projects across industries like education, aviation, retail, hospitality, tech, infrastructure, and nonprofits. Along the way, she gained valuable experience at agencies such as Mucho here in Barcelona and earlier in her career at Ziegel
And
Gale
Gail.
in New York.
Yes.
Today, through Adel Agency, she helps people prosper by building fruitful brands through an allyship approach, one rooted in gritty positivity,
Yes.
synergy, and general
Let's see if you can say it.
badassery.
Yes, badassery. That's right. You got it.
Ensuring that every brand strategy is shaped together, not delivered top down.
Mhm.
We are excited to hear from her on how to stop being your brand's worst enemy and start thinking like an investor.
Yes.
Why can you be your brand's worst enemy? What makes you your brand's worst enemy? Explain. That sounds very interesting to me.
Yes, it's sort of like a contradiction because on the one hand, first of all, thank you. I should say thank you for inviting me to be here, and thank you for the people who've joined and maybe some trickling in last minute. Thank you for the support. So it's a bit of a contradiction to say that as a business owner, you could potentially be your brand's worst enemy because no one knows your business better than you. However, from a brand strategy point of view, these are sort of the lessons that I would love business owners to integrate and to sort of, if I had my ideal client, if they could just come in, with these mindsets already established, it would make my life and my job a lot easier. So this is why I wanted to kind of talk to you about all this stuff today. So there's like three main mindsets or perspectives, if you will, that can potentially make you your brand's worst enemy. And I'm going to, talk very briefly through all three. The first one, if you walk away from this webinar or live stream with any point like in your mind, like ingrained, is this one that I'm going to say right now, which is your brand is not your logo. Okay. This is very important to integrate and understand as a business owner because it really shifts your behavior when it comes to how you approach brand from an expense mindset, meaning I'm spending, this is costing me money, to an investment mindset, right? Which is I am investing in this to get a return later down the road. And when you think of your brand as a logo, it's like something you're shopping for, at the end of a process where you've, maybe built your business model, you've, gone through different forms of like viability tests of your business, you've developed your product, you've developed your internal processes, you've put your team together, and now all of a sudden you're at the end of all this and you're like, oh, I have to make this presentable, so I guess I need a logo, right? Or I need a name. And it becomes sort of this afterthought expense. And so that is the first way in which we become enemies of our own brands. And it's not to blame business owners. This comes from really a very generalized understanding of what brand is. So in the beginning of time, we branded, right, our belongings, right? So when we were like ranchers and we had like cows running around in pasture, we branded them quite literally to say, hey, this is my cow, not your cow, right? So we look at brand as an object. That's sort of the first iteration of brand as we know it. And business owners today in 2025, we still operate with that sort of general basic understanding of what a brand is, right? A stamp, a logo that says this is mine. But brand has evolved, right? It's evolved from brand as an object to brand as a purpose, right? And we hear, people talking about this all the time. The biggest, most global brands in the world, talk about purpose. And so this has to do with building a brand around a belief, a mission, a cause, a problem that you're trying to solve. And then brand has evolved even further to talk about it in terms, or understand it in terms of experience. So experience has more to do with the memories that people have when they interact with your brand, and how those memories then interact with their decision making when they're ready, when they're in the market for whatever it is that you're selling. And then now it's evolved even further to something called brand as relationship, which means that people have very complex relationships with brands, and they relate to them almost in the same way that we relate to each other as humans. And so developing a brand that is relational is complex, it's strategic, but this is really where we are now in terms of like the most top performing global scalable brands that you can think of. And so most business owners at the small business level, mid-sized business level, are still operating and thinking about brand as that, hey, it's my cow, right? That stamp.
But I have a question. Let me, because I'm a small business owner basically. So V Paragon is my invention, my creation.
Mm-hmm.
So what I see, like what you say, it's super interesting, and I can understand that if you are a big corporate, so you're gonna implement all these strategies, tactics to create like a brand strategy. For a smaller guy. I mean, besides, I mean, I take care of my logo. I'm looking that the colors that I use are the same as my logo, but not too much. I mean, what do you think it's going to bring practical, like to make me make more business?
Yes.
What regards the
I kind
what
of
can I
understand.
do more?
I understand what you're saying. It's like, what gets a business owner to understand that brand is more than just a ticket, purchase that you make,
Yes,
and an investment, right? You think to yourself, I'm a small business owner, I don't have the resources or the time or the money or the team to build a global brand, and maybe I'm not even interested in building a global brand. But it really doesn't matter the scale of your business when it comes to thinking strategically. It's up to you. I mean, life goes on. You're going to engage in your business, and you're going to have your clients, and you're going to do the work that you do. But on one path, you can make it harder for yourself. You're sort of sabotaging yourself on the one hand, and on the other hand, you're being more strategic and sort of creating a brand that performs for you, not against you. Do you know what I'm saying? So typically what we see in small businesses is that, you've put the legwork in, in Spanish we say picar la piedra, and you've built this business that you're now 20 years in, and you've got your steady portfolio of clients, and you're thinking to yourself, like, why do I need brand strategy, right? Well, what happens is you get to a point where your business is performing at this level and your brand is like performing at this level. So here you are talking to people about how great your business is and all the things that you've done, and then they go and have other experiences with your brand, whether it's on your website, whether it's the business card that you gave them, or the flyer that you left behind, or the office, and the team that where you're working, and there's a disconnect, right? Because the business is operating here, but you've neglected the brand because it's just something that you purchased, one time off, and there hasn't been any strategic thinking behind investing in that brand so that it keeps up with your business and to some degree elevates your business to the next
yes.
level. If you're looking to scale or introduce a new product, or enter a completely different market. And I can get into that a little bit more of the scenarios in which a small business owner could benefit from brand strategy. But I wanted to get to the sort of second
Yes.
mindset that makes you your brand's worst enemy. And it has to do with thinking about brand in terms of product versus purpose. Okay. So on the one hand, you have this amazing product that you've built, and it's like solving all sorts of amazing problems. And we saw it like when we were at the mobile conference, right? So many innovations with technology left and right, right? And so what all the red flags that were kind of going off in my head was, I'm looking at, oh my gosh, there are so many brands being built solely on the product. which at first seems like, okay, what's the big deal? I have a good product. But what you're essentially saying is, I'm going to limit the growth and the potential of my business to this one product. So as politics change, new technologies, enter the market, competitors come in, customer sentiment or demand changes, what are you going to do? You throw away that product and build a new one? Under what justification? Because you focused your whole brand on just that product.
Actually, I know big brands that did exactly that. They did exactly that. So the product was more famous than the brand. So what they did at the end is they changed the name. The whole name of the company was changed to the name of the product because people didn't know the brand name of the company.
Exactly. And what happens, that's a nice like brand architecture exercise. So what happens is, if it's so profitable that it's not worth like changing the product or changing the brand around it, you sort of leave it there. But you as a business owner, if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, you sort of see other opportunities where your business can grow. And now I have to open a second company with a second name, and then before you know it, you have like 4 or 5 businesses running parallel. And you might not even realize that there's a potential connection between all of these that could be like synthesized into something that is more purpose driven. And this is what I'm trying to get to with the second comparison between product and purpose, is that when you build a brand around the why instead of the what, you can virtually sell and expand and pivot and shift and adapt in so many different directions. You really start to unlock the potential of your business and all of your networks and all of your connections and all of your partnerships, because now it's not solely based on one product. Yeah, you're going to talk about that amazing product that you have, but you're leaving it open enough because you're talking about a mission or a bigger idea that's grander than that one product. And so now you're able to integrate new products, services, you can pivot, shift industries even completely, all under the same sort of ecosystem of this brand that you've built. And so this is when you're getting into investing in brand versus executing one-off, expenses into your brand. That's the second one. If I may, I'll just jump right into the third mindset that keeps you as an enemy, and then we can, or you can interrupt me, because I talk a lot. So the third sort of mindset that's keeping us sort of sabotaging our own business is this idea of intent around integration and implementation. And I'll explain what I mean by that. When you get through that original roadblock, that you're like finally realizing, okay, my brand is not just a logo, my brand is not just a refreshed website, or my brand is not just a digital marketing strategy. You understand that it's a whole ecosystem of strategies and actions that when it's all summed up together, it creates a memory in people's minds. So it positions you in the market in a certain way. When you start understanding that, and you're like, okay, fine, I'm ready to like dive into brand strategy and go that route. It's not cheap. Okay. So intent is really important, because what ends up happening is you're going to end up with a $50,000, $20,000, $100,000, $300,000 PDF and folder with files in it sitting in your computer. Okay. What happens a lot of times is business owners start the process, but they still are externalizing brand as something that is, something that you can externalize as a product and then like bring in, okay, I bought this brand strategy and it's just going to do its own thing. No, you have to integrate it deeply into the whole business system, starting with yourself. What this means is, if you have like a very nice, now polished brand narrative, it's super well positioned, all this wonderful stuff, but then you as the business owner is still going around talking about your business and your brand as that my cow, that stamp that we talked about in the beginning, there's a disconnect there. There's a misalignment. And so you're sort of stepping on your own toes or stepping in your own way of the potential that the brand has to grow, right? So integration is really important, starting with you, but then integration into your whole business. A lot of times business owners, when I say to them, hey, Adele Agency is a brand strategy consultancy, it's, branding and design, they keep it at this sort of visual level, but true brand strategy is one that's integrated in management, operational processes, recruitment, HR, even compliance, right? So if you as a brand value transparency, there has to be compliance policies and enforcements that reflect that brand strategy around those values that you've declared, right? It can't just be pretty copy, because then that's just a digital marketing strategy. It's not really a brand that you're building. So brand is not a logo, product versus purpose, and intent of integration and implementation. Implementation means I have the intent, I've integrated these things internally. I don't have unlimited funds. I can't, right out of the gate, explode with this amazing new brand strategy, this amazing design, this amazing communication. But there is a plan, meaning you've allocated time, resources, people, and money to say, little by little, I'm going to start implementing, investing in my brand, right? So that over time I get a return on all these things that I'm doing now to build what then becomes your investor mindset around something we call brand equity. So this is really like where all of these things kind of come together, right? Just as the way that you invest in the stock, it's a long-term game, right? You don't invest now to then tomorrow pull out $20 that you made overnight or whatever.
Let me interrupt you.
Got really lucky and
Let me interrupt you. Okay, let me
yeah.
interrupt you because I have many questions, and many questions they come. I have them genuinely because I feel. I mean, I feel really. I'm listening to what you're saying. According to your opinion, what is the biggest threat in today's world in regards to branding, of course? And I want you to answer, and then I will tell you what I think is the biggest threat.
Yeah, he does that. He does that.
Thank you for asking. I think really like our human beings, we have like some basic challenges that cross over into every aspect of our experience and our existence. And I think that the biggest branding challenge remains the same, and it has to do with us internally understanding what it is, how it serves us, and how we can implement it to our benefit and to the benefit of society. And that's an internal like work that you have to do. I mean, to me, it's not AI. It's not, I think branding nowadays is extremely overused, and we use the word to mean different things. But I think essentially, like for business owners, whether you're a solopreneur, you have multiple business ventures that are mature and growing and stable, or you're, an executive, running a, international corporation. At the end of the day, if you're the leader, the biggest challenge is you're the decision maker. So you're the one that has to understand this internally first before you even go and ask for help, because how do you ask for help for something you don't know, even know what it is, right? So a lot of times people come to me and they say, my website is outdated. I need a new website. And I say to them, okay, do you want a new website or do you want to solve the problem? Because those are might be two different things. What you're talking to.
Yes, sorry, that's very important what you say about the website and the problem. But let me tell you what I see. I mean, obviously you are an expert. I'm not an expert, but what I see as the biggest challenge, and I'm also older than you, so I come from another age, and I can compare the previous times with today's world. So from the one side is the complexity of the solutions and the products that are out there, and secondly, I regard as the biggest threat the amount, the noise, it's so much information. So I want to keep my website or my brand limited. I want to exclude many things so that the potential customer has a clear view about what I am offering. So exactly. that has been a challenge, right?
So what you just described right there is strategy. So
yes.
Strategy is about setting limitations and working with those limitations. But the reason why we sabotage ourselves as business owners is because then we make that strategy and we're not consistent with it. Why? Because new things come up all the time that say, hey, you got to do this, you got to talk about this, or this is a new trending word, or this is a new trendy, solution or app or this or that, and we ourselves as business leaders get caught up in all of that. And it's like, whoa, what was my strategy again? What is my purpose? Like, what am I here to do? And then kind of buckle down, or double down, I should say, on that strategy. If if you trust it, if you believe that it was well designed and thoughtful and rigorous. Not every strategy is good, because not every strategy is done with rigor and with care and love and attention and teamwork and collaboration. But I would say that that's what you just described is exactly what strategy does for businesses: is focus, remove noise, and stay steadfast.
One of the mistakes I see people doing a lot about their
Mm-hmm.
personal brand, it's the ego. It's all about the ego. So they start, I think small businesses, when they start in particular, they're so attached to that logo or that color or that photo on their website, because it's about the status it gives them or how it makes them look. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not so much about, they're not so much thinking forward, as you say, they're not being strategic about it. They're thinking about, okay, I want something pretty that looks like me, that makes me look good. And so that's what I'm seeing a lot when I speak to some of my clients who are starting their business, and the first thing they want to do, obviously, is get a logo or get a new website. And I'm like, no, first you need to. There's other things that need to be clear before you do that, as you were saying.
Absolutely.
And I do see that a lot, where people focus first on the shiny objects or
Mm-hmm.
on the thing that's going to give them some status out there,
Mm-hmm.
rather than actually playing the long game.
Exactly. And in the end, it ends up being more costly. I've had clients where they literally just did their logo and they come to me because, I don't know, they need narrative, right? They need, like, specifically, how to articulate something, right? We start doing the narrative work, because strategy doesn't just come out of thin air. There's a process of, auditing and immersing yourself in what the context is, looking at the competitive market and doing a lot of research. And usually strategy is born out, if it's good, it's born out of some sound conclusions. And sometimes that sound conclusion says, hey, that logo or that name or that thing that you created really isn't aligning up or isn't telling the story, isn't coherent with, like, what this strategy is about. So something's got to give. And so you find yourself having to tell your client, like, hey, I know you just spent 10,000 or whatever, 15, 20, 30, whatever this, but maybe if we're serious about this direction, then you're gonna have to do this again. And so I always tell people, like, hold on, like, for example, with Adel Agency, right? It's my middle name. A lot of people think that I named my agency just as an ego thing because it's my middle name. But actually, we did a naming exercise. We had like 10 names that we validated. We did market research on. We got people's feedback on. There's registers to say. That's another thing. People don't register their brands. You look at what competitors are doing, and in the end, it got really down to 2 names, and Adel ended up being the most strategic option. I liked another name better personally that I was going to go for, but in the end, you can't just base it off of your own personal taste or not if you want to be strategic. I mean, you can. Lots of businesses, are called, somebody's child name, or and the cousin did the logo. That's fine, but if you want to grow or scale, or if you have a certain vision, you need to professionalize all of that, and you need to do it in a strategic way, and think like an investor. That's really the last point that I wanted to get to, is this brand equity. So brand is a long-term game. You start investing, you're doing all these little things, spending money here, spending money there, but it's really an investment into a business asset. And I think it's really important that people understand that brand is a business asset, and that comes in handy at the end of 40 years that you've been building your business and you're ready to retire and you're out, like, looking to sell the company, or maybe there's a merger that's going to happen, or a venture capital is going to come in and buy off the company. The compound interest over all those years of recognition, trust, credibility give you a leverage to negotiate a higher valuation for your business. It gives you a multiplier to say, if we just look at my business by its product or by its operation solely, it's worth X amount. But if we look at it plus the brand, it's worth X amount more. So that's really when you cash in on all that investment that you make initially when you're building, or throughout the whole process of brand building, because it's a lifelong thing with the business. No, as long as the business is alive, brand building is happening, and it's an investment that you're making. And that's how you shift from being a sabotager of your own brand to being an investor of your own brand. And you have to be. It's your business. No one's going to invest on it better and more than you.
Yeah, it's always the case.
So that's it for me.
Yes, Sarah. So I want to ask you one question. So through all the experience that you have, what is your unique selling point? What makes you different than the competition? Why should somebody come to Sarah and ask you for your services?
You know, that question always gives me like a little bit of a gut punch reaction, because it sort of puts you in this position where you have to like prove or show that somehow, like, you know, you want to be picked, or I'm better than it. The truth is, you know, from Adele Agency, I am expressing a deep belief that prosperity is my destiny. And the best way for me to reach my destiny is by helping other people be prosperous. And that is the truth. Like, I was sitting, you know, breaking my head, like, you know, 24 months ago, trying to figure out what to do. I knew that I wanted to do a business, but I was like, what can I do, you know? And for me, it was like, I have this abilities, I have talent, I have expertise, I have a global vision. I've worked in the United States, I'm here now in Europe. But I can't tell you that, you know, my brand strategy is the best brand strategy in the world. But I can tell you that I'm driven by this purpose to help people prosper. And that's the truth. And I think if people want to work in a way that's collaborative, that's friendly, that's down to earth, that's human, where you're buying into an allyship, meaning if I can't help you directly solve your business problem, I will do everything I can to roll up my sleeves and be an ally to your business, especially if I believe in what you're doing. And so I think allyship, thinking about these like service providers, like a brand agency, more as an ally to like your journey, your prosperity journey, that's sort of where I think, you know, I can add value. And also it's me, Sarah, and my team. So
It's a very honest answer. You convinced me. So,
He's hiring you tomorrow.
it's
but your clients can be from anywhere in the world, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, there's a language barrier to some countries, I suppose, you know, but yeah, because you know, I'm from the United States. I moved here 7 years ago. I do have that sort of international bi-coastal thing going on, so which also gives my clients access to a very like diverse network. So I have collaborators that are in New York or in Miami, San Francisco. I have some clients in Texas, in Washington, but then I'm also here. I have, you know, collaborators in Germany and in Portugal and London.
But do you think that what you do through your experience in the States can be applied here with the same success?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And especially, I think, you know, if you want, like, okay, so I've seen this a lot. This is like a culture shock. You know, I'm American, and for what it's worth, you know, we are raised with this belief that like whatever stupid idea you have in your head, like you can do it, you know, literally. And so I think, especially here locally in Spain and in Barcelona, this mindset is shifting a little bit. But I mean, there is a nice balance of the weight of, you know, reality that people have around the projects. So there's definitely more cultural caution around not jumping onto every single silly idea that any person has. But sometimes you need somebody to root for you and root for your business and say, hey, go for it, you know? And so I think that especially in Europe, you know, having an American-minded ally that can say, yeah, go for it. It's a great idea. You can do it if you know, if you have the confidence, if you have the strategy, if you have the plan and the intent and all this, why not? And so in that sense, I'm a bit of a cheerleader for my clients. I really am. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Maria, do you have any other questions for Sarah?
I think we're getting to the limit of our time. I think you guys have covered it pretty well. But
we're getting to the limit of our time, and so to contact you, if somebody wants to contact you, he can email you at hola@adelagency.com, correct?
That's right. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, just email me or ping me on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Sarah. That was really interesting, and really interesting on brand and how we should be looking at it differently than how most people are probably considering it.
Absolutely. And I want to thank both of you for the opportunity, and also for MBA. What you guys are doing with this organization of business people is amazing. You welcomed me with enthusiasm and open arms. Here we are now having this chat. And so I'm just very grateful to you for your time and for your attention.
You're welcome to come back anytime.
I will.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.